A broad area of thunderstorms continue over the central Philippines on tonight's tropical weather bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical weather bulletin for January 12th. We still have no named storms active right now, but still plenty of areas of interest that we are monitoring over the next few days, and an evolving situation in the southwest Indian Ocean, along with these continuing showers and tropical disturbance, very broad system in the western Pacific today. First of all, in the Atlantic, it's 140 days until hurricane season begins, and there's nothing to look at out there, which is good news. Just an extremely long weather front there, extending from almost from the Caribbean all the way through to Western Europe now. Elsewhere though, things are looking a little bit more interesting. We have this 20% area of interest in the Western Pacific. The centre of it, if it had one, would still be well over water, but a lot of precipitation occurring over the Philippine Islands as a result of that large system. And now looking further towards the southwest into the Indian Ocean, we've marked a second area of interest on the western side of it. Models are starting to pick up on this second system possibly coexisting with the first prominent one that we've been marking for a good while. And the first one is still likely to become the stronger storm and is obviously most likely to form. We've also got a 10% still active in the southern Pacific, not far from French Polynesia. It still has a low chance though, and it will probably not turn tropical as it continues to swirl around and drop down towards the south, but could be a rain event for the Austral Islands down there. Satellite imagery in the last 24 hours shows that there's been a lot of rain occurring over the western Pacific waters, not that much over the Philippines in relative terms compared to that. Elsewhere you can see quite a bit of precipitation over the Indian Ocean there, and for land areas looks like there's quite a bit going on along the Chinese Plateau region and across Eastern Europe. Here's what the Philippines look like right now with all of this precipitation and convective cloud tops. Certainly an extremely disorganized mess, but a line of systems almost there that you can take away from that. With that central one there, you can see convection blowing up on two channels, and that would be sort of the center of where that system would be right now. We looked at an ASCAP pass from earlier, no well-defined center yet, quite far from it. There is a little bit of rotation, but we're certainly not looking at designating this as a tropical cyclone at this point. Got convection blowing up decently and spreading out far over the Philippine Islands themselves, and this is likely to become a significant rainmaker still for the next few days. Model trends have actually gone upwards again in terms of expected rainfall over the next 7 days, and we'll take a look at that shortly. Most of it will still occur out to sea, but we'll still see plenty of rainfall occurring over the land areas as well. Well, that imagery is just stopped there for the moment, but you can see on that last frame where a lot of the overland cloud tops were right now across Leyte, southern Samar, and through to the island of Cebu as well, getting a lot of that right now. So interesting to see, and its general movement and distribution of the rainfall will move northwestwards. This is the Indian Ocean right now, the southwest Indian, and you can see those two areas there. Well, technically there's actually three. There's one on the right hand side there that's actually north of the equator, but those two that are south of the equator in the last 24 hours here, that's the battleground that we'll be looking out to see this potential double tropical cyclone threat form. We've seen quite a while now. It's going to be the eastern one that gets more traction first. It's moved further east than expected as well, and is still limping out over that way. The reason why that's happened is because it's failed to generate to become a tropical cyclone. Once that happens, it will get steered much more easily towards the southwest, and you'll see that start to happen very quickly when it does form. Sea surface temperatures around the globe, look out for anything above 79 degrees Fahrenheit, that's 26 Celsius. That's enough for tropical cyclone genesis. There's quite a few places in the eastern Pacific that's decent enough for those temperatures, and quite a few areas in the Caribbean as well, but we're really not going to see any of that come to fruition with tropical cyclones. That's just how the weather patterns are at this time of year, as I'm sure a lot of you know. Moving over to the Indian Ocean, the Arabian Sea first of all, temperatures well into the 26-27 range, and in the southwest Indian Ocean, very warm temperatures, red hot actually in a few areas, the Mozambique Channel 29 degrees plus, and the area to the east of Madagascar 27 degrees quite easily, warmer closer to the equator, pushing 28. Even in the deep sea regions there, temperatures are increasing, getting up to around 27 now. Indian Ocean, the Bay of Bengal I should say, good temperatures in the lower latitudes, still a cool area off the coast of Australia, but further towards the tropical, deep tropical zone, temperatures are still very warm. Gulf of Carpentaria 29 Celsius, Coral Sea pushing 28, 29 Celsius as well, and around Fiji it's 28, maybe 29 as well there too. So all across the South Pacific is real prime real estate for the next few weeks, probably for potential tropical cyclones. And this is displayed again here in the anomalies. Yellow and red areas are above average right now, blue areas below average for the time of year, and it's the South Pacific that's above average, and it's Western Australia that's well below average right now, which is really interesting to see. But temperatures are still good enough, but of course they don't have the advantage that they usually have with them being at average. Western Pacific also above the average there as well, it should be noted. Oceanic heat content looks like this, very good values around the Solomon Islands and extending to the northern Vanuatu Islands now. That will continue for a few weeks yet. And the Western Pacific there, still a decent area there, notched just to the south of Guam, but generally it's fairly quiet. But still, you never know what might happen with that odd system. Checking the computer models, this is the GFS for the next 5 days. This is the short range. You can see that rotation, this potential system, gale force winds here and there, but does it ever close in on that circulation? I would suggest that the answer to that is no. An extremely broad circulation. You'll see that southern side of it really doesn't wrap up at all during that period, especially around here. Look, day 3 to 5, you can almost make out that central circulation covering almost half of the entire Philippine Islands. It's a massive, broad, low pressure system. Southwest Indian Ocean, you can see the progress of these two systems much more spaced apart than what we saw on earlier model runs, and this first one really gets itself going quite quickly and completely swallows up that second system around about day 5. It really doesn't get going properly on the GFS. Some of the other models are a little bit more lenient with it, and it does get going a little bit into a tropical cyclone, but the final cause or result of it is all the same in the end, that it does get absorbed by the main system. This is the South Pacific looking into that time period, and you can see once again that system on the right hand side. That's the 10% that we're looking at, and you'll watch that again in a moment. It's quite difficult to see where a tropical cyclone will come from that now, but there it is just initially there. That chance is there. And then that second system possibly to the south of Fiji, more towards the left hand side of your screen, near the end of that 5-day period. There you can see it dropping down towards New Zealand. That probably won't be a tropical cyclone. Look at the rainfall expectations around the Philippine Islands over the next 7 days. That big pink line there, you'd usually associate that with a strong typhoon moving through when you see stuff like that, but it's really just a big burst of convection near the center of that system that continues northwestwards and dies out quite quickly. But by the time we get to day 7, these are the rain amounts that we're looking at. On Catanduanes, it's very close to those high numbers, but on that land area, it's 15 inches. That's around 300 to 400 millimeters. But out to sea, if that does get closer to land, you're looking at in excess of 700 millimeters of rainfall out to sea there, and inland areas, quite a few areas getting to 300 millimeters as well. That's on top of what we've already seen. Into the longer range, this is day 5 through 10. You can see this powerful cyclone that's really going to affect the Mascarene Islands and then onto the eastern coast of Madagascar. Hurricane force winds reaching the eastern coast there. And now the GFS has it stalling a little bit and moving towards land there right at the end, towards southern Madagascar. So could still be a hurricane strength storm by the time it moves in there, and it looks like it's just about to pull in towards a landfall there now, which is different to what we saw in previous model runs. Australian region looks like this, taking a look at a potential tropical cyclone there in the Coral Sea. We've been watching that one for a while as well. GFS looks like it's toned down the expectations on that one, but then there's another cyclone there on the west coast again towards the end of that 10-day period that we didn't see in the models previously. So it swings and roundabouts, and things do change at the drop of a hat, especially when we take a look towards the longer range. This is an uncertain part of the world as it is, so look out for that potential dual cyclone trouble now towards day 10. South Pacific, another system forming near Vanuatu there around about the 17th, 18th, and becomes a brief spin-up hurricane strength storm, a small one, doesn't affect any land areas and moves down towards the southeast quite harmlessly. Looks like it just about misses New Zealand as well as an extratropical cyclone. Of course, this is the first time the GFS has really thrown this one up, so it's also a big question mark as to whether we actually see that happen or not. So a lot to be tracking in the next few days down in that region. Scan the barcode and you can take a look at the Force 13 merch store with all of the usual items, as well as full season and individual storm animations bespoke to your liking. And they're still waiting for Hone t-shirt, which I'm sure won't be going out of fashion anytime soon. In the Scilly range, this is day 10 to 16. Look what happens to that Madagascar cyclone. Moves inland, looks like it dies off, but look at that, as if by magic it's back and strengthens again as it moves towards the southeast with that enormous wind field. And there it is continuing out towards the extratropical zones and turning post-tropical in the end. There it is again, hurricane equivalent landfall category 1 or 2, and then moves back out, does a little loop by the looks of things as it goes back down towards the southeast. That is very, very long range though, and the track of that could change a lot over that amount of time. What happens to the two Australian cyclones? Well, the first one on the right hand side, Coral Sea, moving down towards the southeast, doesn't affect land, weakens. The other one becomes a significant category 2 or 3 cyclone, and then it moves southwards, and look at that, still kicking as it heads towards the Perth area. Looks like it might be rounding to tee up towards a hit there, although it'll probably pass to the south and be a post-tropical cyclone. That would be a fascinating one to watch if that did happen, but it is very long range. I wouldn't be expecting it. The 2022 Atlantic hurricane season, what might have been, looks like this. These are all the names that So the 2022 what might have been for the Atlantic is on its way Friday night on the Force 13 channel. I've just started work on the East Pacific as well, so that shouldn't be too far behind. Well, on this day, on January 12th, 2014, we had two Category 4s that occurred in that 24-hour period. Cyclone Colin in the Indian Ocean and Cyclone Ian pictured out towards the Tongolese Islands, had cleared those islands actually and was moving southeastwards out towards the dead zone, and was actually starting to weaken at this point already, and would weaken very quickly from this point onwards. You may remember my videos on Ian around that time. Not the Ian that we'll come to know after the most recent one, of course. Well then, back to today. The next name on the Atlantic naming list, the first one of the season, will be Arlene. In the Eastern Pacific, we'll be looking out for Adrian. In the Central Pacific, the next name on the list is still Hone. Gosh. In the Western Pacific, we are looking out for Sanvu, followed by Mawar, and in the North Indian Ocean, the next name will be Mocha. We've had two storms so far, if you count the second coming of Ellie. The average per year is 92, and last year we saw 93, if you need reminding. In the Australian region, the next name is Freddie, the Southwest Indian Chiniso, and in the South Pacific, it's Irene. That's all from tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll be back again tomorrow night.